self-care practices. Yes, there were certain self-care practices that I took when I was just getting started in my business that I am convinced really helped, and I know some people might want to argue with me and they're like, no, it's just the branding, or it's just the sales, or it's just this, or it's just that. Maybe you work a full-time job and you're like, what can I possibly do to grow my business? I'm gonna ask you, are you doing self-care practices? And if not, consider these self-care practices that have been and continue to be very instrumental to me. And so with that, let's get into it. Hey, CourtneyLSanders here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to me, I'm a full-time online life and business coach, as well as wife and mom. I wear all the hats and do all the things. And I feel like I talk to you about all the things that you need to do, at least from a business standpoint or, even a mindset standpoint in order to grow your business. But there's one thing that I haven't talked about, and I'm like, I'm gonna talk about it in this video, and that's self-care practices. Yes, because there were certain self-care practices that I took when I was just getting started in my business that I am convinced really helped, and I know some people might want to argue with me and they're like, no, it's just the branding, or it's just the sales, or it's just this, or it's just that. But I think it's the combination of all of those things in addition to my ability to really practice self-care consistently, because that leads to your mindset, and your mindset ultimately leads to your behavior and the actions that you take and your ability to have success. So if you are just getting started in your coaching business, maybe you're growing your brand, maybe you work a full-time job and you're like, what can I possibly do to grow my business? I'm gonna ask you, are you doing self-care practices? And if not, consider these self-care practices that have been and continue to be very instrumental to me. And so with that, let's get into it. Okay, the first self-care practice that, this is the self-care practice of all self-care practices. I probably should have put this at the end, because if you listen to nothing else in this video, do this. But I have done this from the beginning and I continue to do it even now. And that is put myself in inspiring environments. Why? Because it has so many positive effects. One, because it leaves you inspired, but I find that being in inspiring environments reminds you that you are worthy, right? When you go to places that inspire you, that really open you up, you start to think differently about what's possible for you, and you start to say, you know what? Maybe I can do this. I think sometimes when we are just in our normal lives and we're very focused on maybe what we don't have, we're looking at other people who we believe have ultimately what we want, and we're kind of like, when am I gonna get there? It creates this environment of mental struggle, mental strain, this constant remembrance that you are not where you want to be. But I find that when you are deliberate about putting yourself in places that are inspiring, you are where you want to be right there, even as you work towards your ultimate goal. And so in the beginning, that was something as simple as going to the lobby of a hotel that I really enjoyed. I've shared before on this channel that I was working full-time in Dallas, Texas, and there was a hotel, it's still there. It's a beautiful hotel called the Jewel Hotel. Very nice, shishi-poo, fancy hotel. There was at the time, no way that I could afford the nightly room rate in order to stay there, but it was only a few blocks away from my job. And so on my lunch break, I would literally take my personal laptop, I would pack it up in my bag, and I would walk the several blocks to this hotel, and I would just sit in the lobby and order a coffee. Sometimes I would even pack my lunch from home, and I'd heat it up in the microwave at my job, and I'd put it in a plastic bag, and I would walk to the Jewel Hotel. Yes, I know this is kind of tacky, but I would even kind of sneak and eat my little microwave lunch in the lobby of this hotel. But I did it because I just needed to be in that environment. I needed to remind myself what was possible, where I'll be one day. And it just gave me that motivation to continue to, grind it out, because it was a grind for a while working full time and trying to grow my business. Something as simple as that. And even if I couldn't do it every day, maybe on a Friday or something, or just when I'm having a bad day at work, I'm gonna take my lunch break and I'm gonna go to the Jewel Hotel, that really, really gave me the motivation and the push that I needed. So even to this day, I am always about putting myself in inspiring environments. It might be something as simple as going to a park that I really like here in my city in Houston, Texas. It might be traveling somewhere. There's extravagant trips that I've taken, but there's also really basic, trips that I've taken, but I just enjoy being somewhere new. Sometimes it's just simply going to the museum. I love art. I love being around creative people and just creativity in general. And I find that sometimes being in that environment really sparks my own creativity. So that is a personal self-care practice that I have done, I continue to do. I do it for my own well-being, not just to grow my business, but I find that it has helped me grow my business over the years, and that is putting myself in inspiring environments. Okay, the next self-care practice that I do, I've become famous for this. I definitely talk about this a lot on Instagram. It's a little obnoxious and I don't really care. And that is my CEO lunch. Okay, so I have this self-care practice. It is self-care. where once a week, I take myself to a very nice restaurant just for lunch, and I order like extravagant stuff just for lunch. And I'm like over the top and ridiculous about it, but that's the point, right? So I will go to like a steakhouse, and it's just me. It's so funny because the servers are like, are you joining anybody else? Like, okay, they're trying to keep up. They're like, okay, you're ordering an appetizer and a side salad and a steak. Oh, but you want fries on the side, and you want a glass of wine, and you want to, they're like, ma'am, is somebody joining you? Like, who is eating all this food? And I'm like, me. Your girl can put it away, okay? I work very hard on that Peloton. I am a Peloton mom, all right? So I'm on that Peloton bike 5 to 6 days a week, so I deserve it. I can eat whatever I want to eat. No, but yeah, I will go to these restaurants for my CEO lunch and order like extravagant stuff. Like the bill's like $100 for me for lunch when it's over, but I'm like, you know what? That was my reward for the week, right? So part of that is I do reward myself for my hard work, right? I'm up super early. I get up 5:30 a.m. most days, some days even earlier than that, especially if the baby had a bad night and is crying. My team is all over the world. I've got people in the Philippines and South Africa and Eastern Europe and London, just everywhere, right? And so, you know, trying to schedule the meetings. Oftentimes we have our stand-up at 7:30 a.m. my time, right? So I'm already up early. I'm doing my stand-up meeting. I'm dealing with kids, picking up my son from school. I do have a meal prep chef that comes, but I'm still responsible for meals like over the weekends, lunches. I handle my husband's meals because he's got a special diet and it's just easier if I do it. So, you know, there's like a lot of work that I do both at home and in my business. And so I love my little CEO lunch because for one, it's like a little reward. Typically I'll do it on a Friday, sometimes a Thursday, or if I'm traveling, like whatever day I know I can do it before there's other things that have to happen. I will have myself a CEO lunch, but I also love it because it's a chance to reconnect with myself. So there's a book that I feel like I recommended just in the last video called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, but he talks a lot about how entrepreneurs get burned out because they spend so much time working in their business that they can't work on their business. And so really CEO lunches, part of why I make them so extravagant, is I love a long lunch. You know, it's typically like a 2-hour lunch, but I like to have this time where no one on my team is pinging me. No one is asking me any questions. It's not a lunch that I do with like, you know, a client or any, like my husband don't even meet me for these CEO lunches. It is just me, myself, and I. It is a lunch for the CEO, and there's only one CEO of my business. And so I do that so I have that dedicated time to think strategically and high level about my business, to dream again, to reconnect with why I'm doing this, and to kind of get out of the weeds and get into the clouds, you know, and where ultimately I want to go. And, you know, it's not hard to do when you've got, you know, a great steak or whatever it is I'm having that day on my extravagant CEO lunches. So that is one of my favorite weekly self-care practices. All right, another self-care practice that I do that's actually connected with the first one that I talked about, which is putting myself in inspiring environments, is making sure that I am staying true to my personal style. So I obviously love style. I mean, you guys see I'm changing shirts for all these videos, and even in my personal life, you know, I love dressing up and just dressing like how I dress. But part of that is because I feel like when I'm in clothes that I feel good about, where I feel like the colors look good on me, they feel creative, and I feel like, you know, I look like the woman that I want to be in the world, it's like I'm a walking inspiring environment, right? So we talked about inspiring environments from the standpoint of maybe going to a hotel lobby or going to a park or, you know, going somewhere externally where the environment is really nice. But I also love making myself an inspiring environment, right? And that is mastering my personal style. And understand that this is hard won, okay? I've been working on my personal style for at least 20, 25 years, okay? I remember when I was like 8, 9, 10, trying to get this down, trying to nail this, feeling awkward, feeling like nothing ever like looked right on me or that I couldn't quite nail it. And so I feel like over the last few years, I've really hit my stride in terms of knowing what my style is, knowing what clothes look good on me, feeling really good about the clothes that I have in my wardrobe, and feeling like I can truly show up as my authentic self and how I like to look and how I like to present myself to the world. And I believe that that is a form of self-care. I say this because I see too many moms who neglect this, right? And I'm not talking about a season, because I definitely neglected this when I was pregnant with both my kids, right? Like, you know, your girl was tired, was pregnant. And then even after I had them, that first year is tough. You know, you're not sleeping through the night until 9 or 10 months. You know, you're up, you're nursing. So I'm not talking about that, right? But I'm saying, you know, after your kids are a little older, everybody's sleeping through the night, like you're back on your routine, don't neglect yourself. Like, find your personal style. You deserve to show up and present yourself in a way that you feel good about, and a way that allows other people to treat you the way that you deserve deserve to be treated, right? So again, it's like being your own little personal walking inspiration, right? And I find that when you look good, you feel good, right? And we tend to take ourselves more seriously when we do something just as simple as, you know, putting on a pair of jeans instead of sweatpants or something like that. So really owning my personal style for me is a self-care practice. It also, again, reminds me, I am the CEO of this company. I am my brand. I am the face of this brand. Like, I am Courtney Sanders. Like, it reminds me, like, yes, I'm her. She is me. I am that girl, right? Clothing does help with that. So it doesn't have to be super expensive. I've done this from the very beginning. That's why, before I get into the comments, what if I can't afford expensive clothing? Half my stuff ain't even expensive anyway. I make it look good, right? But you know, I do have some designer pieces, but there's a lot of stuff that you would be surprised where I got it from, right? But I've been an avid thrifter, an avid vintage shopper since I was like 19 years old. And that was something I did a lot in college. Even post-college when I was still trying to get my money together and, you know, working full time. I did a great job going to consignment stores in my city and, you know, again, finding clothes that weren't that expensive but looked good on me and made me feel good. That was something that I was like really, really consistent about. So again, it's not so much the money, it's just the time and the effort. Are you willing to put in the time and the effort? And if you are, I find that it makes a huge impact on your confidence, which ultimately impacts your business. All right, I have more where that came from, but first I want to hear from you. What are some of your favorite business building self-care practices? Share in the comments below. All right, my next favorite, I feel like these are all my favorite. They're like, oh, my children, I don't have a favorite. But my next favorite self-care practice is travel. You probably guessed this one. I love traveling. Even before I could travel the way I travel now, I still traveled. So I love going to different countries. I just love people. I think people are so interesting. I love people from different cultures. I love learning about just their perspective on the world, how they live, what is their country like, languages, food. I'm like, I love all the people around the world, right? I feel like, what's that song? We are the world. We are the nation? No? Okay, I'm botching it. What was it?
We are the children.
We are the children. We are the children. What was it? Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones? Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones. Thanks to my videographers helping me out here. I'm botching the song. But I feel like I am that way, right? I think people are super interesting. It's funny. My husband will often ask me for tips and suggestions on like small talk and all this stuff, even though he's pretty gregarious when he wants to be. But I have a hard time answering that because I'm like, people are interesting. Like, just ask them a question that you're interested, you know, like people are legit interesting. And so because I find that people are interesting, I want to visit people in their home environment, right? In different countries. And so even when I was just growing my business, I still made it a focus to travel. You know, I didn't care. I was getting across the pond, right? So I remember my husband and I, we had our like honeymoon in Mexico. And then shortly after that, we went to Belgium and London, Brussels, London, and Paris. And also the Netherlands, a little town called Maastricht. Shout out to those of you who have been to Maastricht, and also Bruges. We went there. Really lovely. Madrid, Tokyo on our baby moon when I was pregnant with my son. We've been all over. We've been to South Africa now, Dubai twice, Tel Aviv, all these different amazing places. I've been to Turks and Caicos now. So I just love traveling and going to different places. So whether you can travel first class or in style, or you're on budget travel, just the experience of traveling to me is a self-care practice because it really opens up your mind. So even as you are growing your business, do take the time to save up some money to go somewhere, even if it's just once a year, because you will find that it will make all the difference in your inspiration. All right, the next self-care practice that I continue to practice that has made all the difference is simply gratitude. I say this all the time, but I am always grateful for where I am right now. And I know some of you are gonna be like, oh yeah, it's easy for you to be grateful right now because you're working full time, you built this business, you've got this brand, whatever. But even when I was working full time in my job and I had 100 readers of my blog every single month, not every day, and I remember that because I tracked that stat. I had 100 readers a month on my blog while I was working full time in my business. Don't you understand that I was grateful for those people? I was grateful that they gave their time and attention to me. I was grateful for the opportunity to build my business. I was grateful for that little secondhand Goodwill desk that I had in my office because I felt like such a grown-up businesswoman, you know, even though it wasn't super fancy, it didn't matter. It was my desk. I was grateful to have that second bedroom and to convert it into a home office. I was grateful, you know, for the little car that I drove and the little places that I live and the little clothes that I wore and all the things that so many people can look at their lives and poo-poo it and say like, oh, it's not good enough. So many people have so much more than me. It doesn't matter where I am in my life. I am so grateful. And I tell you this is a practice that you're gonna have to adopt now, because if you don't do it now, it's gonna come back to bite you later on. In fact, I just visited a friend of mine who's extremely successful, got to visit her house. I mean, just crazy, like gorgeous, amazing, a gazillion bedroom house, all of that. And I still came home grateful for my home, grateful that, one, that's possible for me, right? Because she's also a mentor of mine. I kind of look to her as inspiration and, what's possible for me, one day I can get there. But I feel grateful that I am where I am right now, and that where I am right now is even a stepping stone where something like that is even in my future, is even in my potential. So I never poo-poo where I'm at. I'm always very excited about what I have and what I'm doing. And I find that level of gratitude actually helps me take the things that I have and use them so that I can ultimately get the things I want. So never forget to practice gratitude. All right, I hope you loved this video. If you did, and you're looking to grow your business, you are gonna love my signature coaching program, the Next Big Name Bootcamp. It goes super in depth about all the things that make you unique, all the different ways that you can stand out. And it's my process that's here to shortcut your process so that you can build a successful coaching brand from A to Z in record time and truly become the next big name in your field. So if you wanna learn more about it and even apply, you can click the link below to learn more. Once we receive your application, we'll review it. And if we think you are a good fit, we'll reach out to schedule a call with an enrollment coordinator, and we'll take it from there. But with that, if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you can't wait for my next video, make sure you're following me on my podcast, The Courtney Sanders Show. And if you can't wait for my next podcast episode or my next YouTube video, make sure you are following me on Instagram. It's CourtneyLSanders on Instagram. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.